call it and that's what you're saying.
Good morning, I'm Diane Rose, I'm the Director for the Exceptional Student Program, Gardner County School System.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Candace Price. I'm the Media Specialist and PBIS Coach at Alice Coleman Elementary School.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Nicolo Marcus. I am an 8th grade Georgia Studies teacher at Raven Springs Middle School. I'm also the PBIS coach for Raven Middle School.
Good morning, I'm Donna Robinson, I'm the ESP consultant. I have 3 schools, Westover High School, Radio Middle, and Alice Coachman, and I'm also a PBIS Swiss facility.
Okay, as you know, Georgia County has been implementing PBIS. We started in 2014. PBIS is a framework and is used to reduce our disciplinary referrals, improve our students' behavior, as well as our climate and culture. And if you know that if the students are in school, the academic achievement will rise. At this time, we have 9 cohorts in cohort 1 and 2. We have Alice Coachman, Annette Green, Northside, Turner, Radium Middle, Lamar Reese, Live Oak, Sherwood, and Morningside. And out of those schools, we have 5 operational schools, and we have 4 emergency schools. Cohort 3 was a school that was training. Those schools were trained last school term. They're Lake Park, Lincoln, Radium, and Robert Hardin. And these are installing schools. Our next school that will be trained is an alternative school, and it's South Georgia Regional Achievement Center. And we will be training this school on November the 5th and 6th. This is Georgia County's out-of-school suspension data. If you look at when we started before PBIS in 2008, we had 17.1% of our students were out of school. Okay? And we started with PBIS in 2014, and we started with 11.9. But look at us in 2017, we're down to 7.8%. So we are making progress.
Okay, now let's take a look at the time that it cost the district for the discipline referrals. And this was before PBIS was implemented. Administrators, the time it took them to deal with discipline issues, 30 minutes, which was 32 days out of each, it's 32 days out of the year, 250 hours. Teacher, the time it took them, 15 minutes, 125 hours out of 16 minutes. Students, 45 minutes. That's 375 hours, 54 days. Total hours lost, 750 hours, over 100 days. Once PBIS was implemented, now that total went down. Okay, administrative time, 30 minutes, 19 days, 150 hours. Teacher time, 75 hours, 10 days. Student time, 45 minutes, but now 25 hours for 29 days. That total is 450 hours lost. It did go down some, not a whole lot, but as we continue to implement PBIS, we should see a decrease in that total. Okay, now the participation from my audience. When I read that first sentence, I need for you to say 2 words: we teach. If a child does not know how to read,
we teach.
If a child does not know how to swim,
We teach.
if a child does not know how to multiply,
We teach.
if a child does not know how to drive,
We teach.
if a child does not know how to behave,
We teach.
we teach or do we punish?
Teach.
So why can't we finish that sentence the same way we finish those sentences above? Because you have some students that don't know the right way to behave. So it's up to us to teach the correct way to behave. And Dr. Wiley, I'm glad that you mentioned that about the profanity, because I have a middle and a high school. And so far, the number 1 discipline referrals that I've been seeing, profanity. And we gotta realize, is profanity used in the home? We hear it, the kids hear it in the music that they listen to. They hear it on television. So it's all around. So I think we should put a piece in there to learn the students how to communicate with one another. You can use other type of words rather than using curse words.
And I just want to say this, our students come from a diverse background. And let me tell you the number one rule with the mama, what we say. My mama would say, my mama said, if he hits me, do what?
Get him back.
Get him back. So we're trying to change those behaviors when they come into the schools. With PBIS, there are 10 critical elements. And when you walk into a PBIS school, you will see that they have a PBIS team. That team will problem solve around the data. They will look at the data and see what they have in their school, the issues that they're having, and they will come up with solutions. They will be teaching those behaviors. They have an acknowledgement system. Radio Middle may have a different acknowledgement system from Alice Coachman. They have a discipline system where what behaviors are considered minor and which are considered major. Now for me, chewing gum is minor. Just spit it out, spit it out. So it has to be consistent. When a child goes to another classroom, that teacher has to say, this is a minor behavior. Just spit the gum out instead of making a referral. We have to have faculty commitment, buy-in for all faculty members. It's not going to work if someone is saying, I don't want to do it. Okay? We have classroom monitoring, and we also have evaluations. When we come in, we do walkthroughs to make sure that these critical elements are being followed. At this time, Alice Coachman will share with you how they're demonstrating PBIS in their school.
Good morning again. My name is Candace Price, and I'm the PBIS coach at Alice Coachman. Our goal with PBIS is that we want to train children to know how to behave appropriately, not only in the school environment, but when they also go out into the world. And so our goal is to build positive reinforcement school-wide and also relay those to the community. And our goal is not to punish kids, but to prevent that negative behavior so that they can know how they are expected to behave in every environment that they're in. So we use PBIS school-wide, and it's our form of discipline. And with PBIS, we model and we teach the children the appropriate ways to behave. And we also have core values that we use in teaching our children how to behave appropriately. First of all, this is what PBIS is for us. First, we have clear school-wide expectations with incentives and then consequences. If you go anywhere in our building, whether it's in the classroom, the cafeteria, or the gym, we have a matrix that tells the children how they need to behave in those areas. And we don't just post them, we teach those behaviors to them. Every morning, Monday morning, we have a system where we encourage them to listen to the PBIS rules over the intercom from the principal, and then we model what is expected of them. We have them to model examples of what is appropriate behavior, as well as examples of what are non-appropriate behaviors. And then we pull them together and say, now, what did you learn for this? If he's acting out in class, how did that distract the teacher from teaching those students who were not acting out and were doing what they needed to do? And from that, we build a recognition system. And teaching the appropriate behaviors in the settings is really what keeps the kids focused. And what we have noticed as some kids, unfortunately, will get referrals, instead of just sending them home or sending them to ISS, we may do a counseling referral where we have the counselor to talk to them. Or even I, the PBIS coach or someone on the PBIS team, will get with the students and talk to them and say, now, what caused you to misbehave? Which one of the PBIS expectations did you not quite understand that we need to reteach or remodel for you so that you'll know how to behave? And our core values it's an acronym for our school. Our school is Alice Coachman Elementary School. We focus on teaching our children to be accountable, and we explain that term to them, and we model what accountable is. We want them to be committed, to be excellent, and most importantly, to be safe. And this is an example of a matrix that we use in our classroom. For example, in accountable, we want them to come to class prepared, and we want them to give their full, undivided attention to the teacher. And being committed, always put forth their best effort, complete your assignments, even when something is a little difficult. Just raise your hand. We'll stop, we'll help you, we'll assist you, we'll give you the support that you need to excellent, raise your hand, use kind words and actions, and to be safe, enter and exit orderly, and keep your hands and feet to yourself at all times. And the system that we use to make sure that these behaviors are following our class is Class Dojo. It's actually an online free program that any school can use, any teacher can use, where the teacher will go in, we have each teacher to create an account to Class Dojo. They upload the names of their students, and then we create categories based upon accountable, whether or not the children are submitting their homework each week, whether or not they're raising hand. And we have a category for each one of our goals, and we award the kids points each week. And at the end of every month, if those children have done exactly what they needed to do, in kindergarten and second grade, if they have 25 points, or third to fifth, they have 50 points, they get to come to a celebration in honor of them for being behavior and promoting positive behavior. And unfortunately, for those kids who may not get to come, they see the children who are actually at the celebration, and guess what that does? That motivates them to want to do what? Behave. And I just want to end showing a few pictures of our kids who did meet their PBIS points at the end of the month of September, and how they got the opportunity to come to the media center for a snack. And some watched the movie, some did Dance Revolution. And we do see a positive change with our students from having PBIS implemented at Alice Coachman Elementary School. And we are trying to build those relationships, and we want them to be not only positive in the school environment, but in the community as well. So thank you. That is how we use PBIS at Alice Coachman, and we know that it depends on consistency. You have to follow through. Thank you all.
At this time, Mr. Marcus is going to come and share what his school is in the PBIS and
Yes. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm not gonna do the PowerPoint, y'all look at the PowerPoint, I don't want, I'm tired of looking at it already. So, but it's okay though, it's okay. But here's the thing, in relation to what Alice Coachman is doing, it's very similar. A lot of the things that we do as far as PBIS is very similar as far as having expectations, having the matrices up, things of that nature. I want to go a little bit deeper though from a middle school perspective, because in the middle school arena, you have kids who are thinking they're grown, they're thinking they're children all at the same time. And so that is a very, very dynamite mix of what we're dealing with. One day they want to be babies, the next day they want to be grown. And so with that, what we do is we want to clear up perceptions and perspectives, okay? So when we attack it from the middle school perspective, our complete focus is to make sure that they understand that there is a certain climate that is going to affect their perspective. So what we do is we have non-negotiables in our building as far as our expectations, the things that we're going to do, the things that we're going to allow, the things that we're not going to allow. And we teach them on a consistent basis. Our teaching days are on Mondays. We have our lessons coming on Mondays. And what we like to do is when we teach them on Mondays, we come back on Friday afternoon and we then kind of sum everything up to see what the child has learned, to see if the child has been successful, have they had some backdrops, have they failed at some area, and what can we do to improve that child in the behavior that we're expecting. Now, as it relates to our framework, we have a framework called the 4 Ps, which is positive, which is prepared, prompt, present, and productive. That is our framework. We want all of our students to operate within those 4 Ps. Now, inside of those 4 Ps, we have about 8 character words: honesty, responsibility, things of that nature. But we take those 4 Ps and we teach kids how can they be productive as it relates to being honest. How can they be productive as it relates to being responsible? Because what we're trying to do with PBIS is transition them from a childlike mentality to more of an independent mentality when they get to high school. So therefore, that's what we use PBIS for. We have a reward system where just like at a Coachman in the month, we do have celebrations, we have rallies, we have festivals, we have all those different types of things that really do reward their behavior. Now, at middle school level, we can give out candy, but they get tired of that very quickly. So what we do is we've teamed up with some sponsors, and if you not want to team with us, please let me know. We have sponsors where we are giving away prizes at the end of the year. And for middle school students, you know, it lasts for a little while. We can give away some t-shirts, stuff like that, but they get bored with that. So we had to take it to a whole other level. So last year what we did was we gave away 3 32-inch flat screen TVs. We also gave away the new Beats headphone that came out. So when kids see those types of rewards, it's a whole nother level of engagement when it comes to interacting with what we want them to do. And so what we're trying to do is help them to understand that as it is in the school, so it is in society. When you put the work in and you follow the rules of society and your perception of what society is changed so that you can be positive and productive, then you're going to get rewarded at a high level. And so that's the thing that we do at Radium Springs Middle School. The data proves that we are declining in our referral rate. Now, we had a big issue because about, going on 2 years now, we had to deal with a merger of schools. You have the South Side kids coming in with the East Side kids. And if you know anything about the South Side and the East Side, that's a problem. It's a big problem, especially when those gangs come into those schools and merge. But we had the ability to take our PBIS lessons and teach those children real life situations under the umbrella of our character words to help them to understand that you can be productive with a person that you don't necessarily agree with. Or that you can be prompt, you can be present, you can do all the things that we push out there in society with people that you don't agree with. And so that type of lesson is kind of the thing that we do with Radium Springs Middle School. And that's it. Okay.
At this time, I'd like to share a video with you by Dr. Rita Peterson. I don't know if you've heard of Rita Peterson. She has many videos out there, and this one is My Mama Said.
I can remember an occasion when two of my students were fighting at school. I mean, they were going at it on the playground. And at the elementary level, children who are fighting have a tendency to get really angry at each other. And if they're little boys, they puff up, because that means you're really tough. And so they were all puffed up, you know. And when I got them to the office, I asked them a terrible question. I said, what happened? Well, they really huffed up then, and that's really probably the worst question you could ask. Because when you ask what happened, you're never going to get an accurate story. And so I said, okay, you go first. Well, the story gets very loud. I don't know why, but when kids are explaining, the story's loud. You may have noticed that. So I said, okay, Jack, what happened? He said, well, see, we was playing. Everybody was playing. It's important to include everyone, so you're not in trouble by yourself. And he said, we was kicking. Everybody was kicking. And then he kicked my cousin. And my mama said, I said, stop right there. Because I knew we were getting into a hidden rule. The mama rule. You see, there's mama law and there's public law. No law overrides mama law. Did you know that? If you didn't know, that's a hidden rule you must remember. When your mama says it, it becomes engraved in stone. So I knew what he was going to tell me. I said, your mama said if somebody hits you, hit him back, right? And he said, right. And my mama said if somebody messed with anybody in my family. I said, okay, I know the rules. Stop right there. So I asked him, I said, where's your mama work? And he forgot he was supposed to be huffed up. And he said, at the telephone company. And I asked the other little boy where his mom worked. And he said, at Prudential. He was still talking. And I said, okay, your mom works at the telephone company. Your mom works at Prudential. Did your mom say you could fight telephone company? Yes, ma'am. She said, bust them up. And I said, did your mom say you could fight? Yes, ma'am. She told me to defend myself. I said, all right, we got the rules. And they said, are we suspended? I said, absolutely, because that's my rule. If you fight at school, you get to go home for 2 days. Well, they were pretty upset with me by this time. I said, but we have to do some things first. He said, what do we have to do? I said, well, first, we're going to go to the telephone company. And their eyes got real big. Because one of the hidden rules about working is that you don't bother your parents on their job. And he said, are you going to call our mom? I said, no, I'm going to take you over there. He said, oh, no, by this time the huff and puff was gone out of both of them. I said, this is how it's going to work. First, we're going to the telephone company, and we're going to fight at the telephone company. I want you to tear up the telephone company. roll on the floor, kung fu kick, just like you were doing here. But don't hurt each other too bad, because we're gonna leave the telephone company. We're going over to Prudential. We're gonna fight at Prudential. You can really fight over there. That's the last stop. You can make blood, pull hair, snatch each other's clothes off. I can run you by the hospital, get anything broken, set in a cab, push your eyeball back in your head. Then you can begin serving your 2-day suspension. They said, Miss Pearson, you know we can't fight on our mama job. I said, why not? Your mama made the rules. Let's go where your mama is. They said, oh, you did. We're not gonna make it. And they just fought. I said, go sit on the blue seats outside my office while I call your parents. Tell them we're on our way. Get some boxing strategy in place, so you'll know how you're gonna fight once we get there. Oh, they were so sad. They just drug out of there. Well, first of all, you know I wasn't gonna take those kids to their parents. But it was the first time I used a strategy that I've never used before. But I've used a lot since it was never failed. When I called each parent, what I said was, I respect the rules you make for your children at home. You see, there's been a misconception that people who have children don't always make the right decisions about their kids. You see, parents make decisions for their children based on what they know, what they feel will make them safe. And it is not our place to say what they do is wrong. It's our place to say maybe we can add a set of rules that they don't know about. So I began both conversations by saying how much I respected their decisions that they were making for their children, and would they help me. I said, I know you made rules for home, and I promise not to interfere with those. But I need some help. I have 1,200 children in this building, and I have to keep all of them safe. And if everybody fought because their mom said they could, all the children here would be in trouble or hurt. Will you help me? I've never had a parent to tell me no. And I believe it's because I preface it by saying, I respect the rules you've made. And what I give the kids, in addition to their parents, is an opportunity to develop a second set of rules. Many times, to explain this point even further, I've asked parents, would you go on your job and punch a coder? Because they disagreed with me. And of course, most of them said, no way. And I asked, why? They said, we lose our jobs. And I said, I want kids to understand that the same concepts apply on their job, which is school. So we need to learn different ways of handling conflict, because fighting is not always an option. 2 sets of rules. 1 set of rules for home, another set of rules for school.
I just wanted to share that with you because we do have students come from diverse backgrounds, and they do come with us saying, my mom said, and we have to share with them, listen, you have rules at home, we have rules at school, and we teach those rules at school as well. Okay? Now, the boss is going to come this moment to share with you on discipline, what is OSS and ISS. Okay.
Good morning again. As Ms. Davis said, I'm Diane Bowes. I'm the director for the Exceptional Student Program here in Doyle County. And when I started this job 5 years ago, in December of that year, each year in December we get a rating from the State Department. And one of the ratings that we got had to do with discipline. Well, of course, Doyle County school system was disproportionate for discipline. And when I say disproportionate, actually what was happening, we were disrepresenting or disproportionately suspending a group of students out of school at a rate higher than we were all other races. And when I say that, we were talking about different races, African American, white, Hispanic, any race of students that's within the school system. So for that, we had to put some early intervening services in place. And when we got the rating, I'm like, okay, I'm new on this job, what are we gonna do? So we pulled the team together, looked at some things that we could do to help decrease this. We just started PBIS with Ms. Davis, and PBIS is a tier 1 intervention, so it's an intervention for everybody in the school system. But because we were disproportionate, we had to look at some tier 2 interventions looking at a group of students or targeted a group of students, that we can put some services in place that they would get something different than all the other students in the school. And so what we did, we took a trip to Minnesota. It was cold, but we went to Minnesota and they had this practice that was going on. It was called Check and Connect. And what Check and Connect is, it's an intervention that speaks to what a lot of the panelists talked about this morning: building relationships, building trust, building a relationship not only with the students in the school, but building a relationship with the parents. Because if you don't have that home-school connection, then you're really gonna miss the impact of what any intervention can do, or how you're gonna make progress in what you're doing. So we came back, we put Check and Connect in place, and when we talk about early intervening services, we started on the elementary level. So we looked at the discipline from all of the schools. We looked at the schools that had the highest representative students that were disciplined, and I'm speaking specifically for students with disabilities. And the focus of that disproportionate, of course, was African American students, and it was African American boys, male students that was being suspended at a disproportionate rate when it came to a comparison of the other students. And so we looked at the discipline, we got the information, we got some targeted schools with those students, and we put the interventions in place. With that, we brought the principals, we did the training, 2-day training with the principals and the Check and Connect team that was going to be doing a school-wide intervention for that targeted group of students. So that worked, along with, and then as someone said earlier today, that you can't depend on one intervention to do the work by itself. So we did a collaboration for those Tier 1 students and those Tier 2 students that were getting the intervention from Check and Connect. And then, so we did see a difference. I'm happy to say, last year in December, when we got our rating, we were no longer disproportionate for discipline. So I'll say that to say, when we put those interventions together and started building those relationships with the students, we did see a difference. Now, is it something that's gonna work for all students? No, because even with that, and we had those students involved in the intervention, we still had students that were suspended. We had some students that were, had to go before the discipline tribunal, and then there were some that were assigned to the alternative school. However, those students now, and the ones that the alternative school, can now be involved in PBIS, and we're also continuing with the Check and Connect. So although we're not being supported with the state, because there's a funding piece that goes along with it when you're disproportionate, you have to spend a percentage of your funding toward those interventions with that intervention that you're going to implement in the school. So when we're talking about out-of-school and in-school suspension, out-of-school and in-school suspension basically serve the same purpose. It is the removal of the student, and it also have the same effect. When you remove those students are now not being able to access the general curriculum. And if they're removed from the general curriculum, they're not getting the instruction that they so dearly need in order to make progress. So there is a connection. As we've already know, there is a major connection between behavior and academics. When you have students that have deficits in academics, of course they're going to their behaviors are going to impact that. And the same thing for behavior. If you have students that are acting out, their academics suffers as well. So with that being said, again, we're not disproportionate for discipline. Ms. Davis and Ms. Robinson and the team here are doing an excellent job with PBIS. And one of the things that they all said, and you've heard them say, that it started off with incentives, and some of those incentives can be very costly. But you can also have incentives that cost you nothing. I think Mr. Marcus mentioned that they have and Ms. Price mentioned that they have a dance. You can do a dance, a school-wide dance for those students that behave. So there are different things that you can do. You just have to be creative. And then the last thing I'll say is something that Mr. Dyer said earlier. You can have an interest, and we had several schools that were interested in PBIS, but they were not committed to PBIS. And for those schools that were not committed, a lot of them are still having some of the same issues and concerns when it comes to discipline. So thank you. Are there any questions?
Interested to know how, when PBIS was implemented, how that was accepted by teachers and separately by parents. I get how kids are kids and those kind of things work, but I'm really wondering about parent acceptance and teacher acceptance.
Well, we're starting with the teachers, you know, if we've been doing the same thing for so many years and we're expecting different results, think about it. We don't have anything in place. And that's what I was telling them. I said, now, you're telling me that you're doing this and that or whatever, but we want to see data. So what we had to do is go in and do an overview of PBIS and just show them other schools who were successful with PBIS. And they all just came aboard with it. Now, you're going to have some that say, it's too much work, or what have you, but they did come aboard.
And what about parents?
From parents, basically, felt when, because we did talk to some of the parents about it, and with the parents, most of them, there was buy-in, because most parents have this idea, if my child in school, then I'm good. That way I don't have to get off my job, I can do what I need to do. And if you're gonna put something in place that's not only gonna be beneficial for my child, it's also gonna be beneficial to me so that I can stay at work and I don't have to come to school. So initially, and I know at Radium, when it first started, they had a community partner, Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble brought in all kinds of products that they had, and so the parents were there when they had their first PBIS or one of their first PBIS activities, and they saw some of the things that it was not only rewarding for the children, it was rewarding for them. And at that school at that time, it was not only rewarding for the parents and the students, it was rewarding for the teachers because the teachers were given incentives too. And we found that, as Ms. Davis said, one of the things that really worked, and for those principals that really have buy-in into PBIS, they give incentives to the teachers. Because one of the things that they do is when the teachers catch the students being good and they have to turn in those tokens for those students, some of the teachers are being rewarded for the number of positive tokens that they give to the students, and so they're rewarded as well. And so it's like a reward system, not only for the students, it's a reward system for the teachers, and then the parents get the overall reward because the students are in school.
And then as far as your school, I know you did overview as well.
Yes, I did. And now, with the teachers, at first it was a little tricky getting them to buy in. But as we just, the PBIS team and I, as we got together and we met with them and we said, this is going to work. We want to build a positive school environment. And it starts here with PBIS in the classroom, and then it's going to trickle down to every aspect of our building. Gradually, as they saw it actually working, the referrals going down, and the kids wanting to behave, they bought into the program. And when they start telling the kids, okay, let's make sure you're in line using your PBIS rule, let's make sure we're doing what we need to do. They said, we know, Mr. Price, we know. Get in the third block, face forward. So they have really bought in, and the teachers make it a success because they're using it mostly in the classroom with the kids. And our parents also have bought in as well, because now the children are not being suspended or being placed in ISS, they're being at school and they're staying there. So that helps them with working, and it lets them know they're doing what they need in the classroom. So it has been very successful at Alice Culture.
And just to tag on what Ms. Price said about PBIS in the classroom, initially when we were talking about PBIS, and Ms. Davis can probably add more onto this, we were looking at PBIS and the positive acronyms and saying they were in the halls, they were in the cafeteria, they were in the gym, and then in some of the classrooms, you just had your class rules. But it wasn't so much you were getting the same positive, like be prompt, be prepared, Alice Coachman, be committed. You didn't have all those same readings in your classroom, and so now PBIS has taken another part and added it to it. So it's not just a school-wide PBIS approach, it's a classroom PBIS approach as well. And Ms. Davis can talk more about that because I think she just went to the training at some of the schools.
Well, what I want to say is about the data. The data tells a story. You can all day long, you can say we have these many students doing this. But when you pull that data up on the screen and you get to see how many third graders you have who are fighting or what have you, and you're going, wow. And then it tells the location, the time of day, and then you get to say, well, maybe we need to monitor the hallways, what have you. So the data really tells a story. So when they get to look at data, they're really surprised. And then just to see it goes from like 15 students, then the next month you have 10, then you have 5. So the data is one of our biggest, input and our biggest force. Any other questions?
I want to, as a parent and also involved, father at my son's school, I go to school. I am the PTO president for Live Oak for the last, well, historically for several years. But I learned that the people is very versatile. And teachers thinking patterns. We believe that we can de-escalate in their thinking and with the wrong action. We know that your thinking and action determine who you really are. We know that's not who they are. Then we deal with communication and how to properly respond when someone bothers you. What's the best approach? And as all the times I've been out there, I noticed all do the same thing, try to approach it with communication. Also, it's all called a patient act. The parent has to be there. That's what we come from. But try to get the parent involved during the period's time. It's very versatile. It helps you to understand how you need to approach. So we call it approach therapy. So it's very versatile in it, and as it grows, that more people involved, more people unify together, that it comes even better. Because we know that behavior also, on the flip side of what I do, I work in North County Sheriff's Office, and I've been the senior chaplain for staff been there for over 12 years. I'm also a CRT trainer, so we have to get professionals to escalate themselves out to even the future. So it works hand in hand to help us understand the different levels of behavior. When they act out, we already know what's behind it, how do they move home. So just like I believe the parent facilitator for Lamar Reed stated, we greet them when they get out of the car, when they get to the front door, and then when they go into the respective, we try to speak to them. So it's very versatile.
So you found it very practical as a parent?
Yes, it's needed.
And just talking to the teachers as well, student comes into the building, you don't know what that student has gone through. You come in, don't come in here to deal with all that. Don't do that. Just good morning, how are you? Because you don't know if they stuck in the car all night or what have you. So we have to put ourselves in their shoes as well. Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm new to this community, but where I came from, one of the things with PBIS, they included the community. And when I say the community, the churches and the local community centers, because that's where the children would frequent after school. So, they did one thing, they educated people who wanted to be educated about the language that was taking place and the changes and PBIS in the whole that took place in that community, so that we would all be speaking the same language. So when you leave school and they're giving you positive behavior at school, we're speaking the same language down at the community center. So I'm interested in knowing what type of efforts have been made in that area, or is that something worth exploring?
It is, but I will say that we, in the school community, is because the schools have partners in excellence. So a lot of the schools invite their partners, and their partners get involved with the different schools in doing a lot of the activities that they're doing for the school. So, yeah, it is, I guess what we really need to do is, I guess, have like a community-wide approach to PBIS, so that the community in itself, but on a school-by-school base level, that is happening, because a lot of the schools get involved with and collaborate with their partners. And several of the schools, I think most of the schools have at least 3 to 5 partners that they partner with. And some of the schools that I know, Alice Coachman is partnering with one of the local churches. I know the church that I attend also is involved with several of the schools here in the community. So we do some buy-in with the schools and partnering with them. So a lot of the things that's happening in the schools, the churches are aware of. So yeah, we're doing it, but probably not on the level that it could be to reach the whole community.
You
Get the information and get the practices into the hands of private care providers. Because even before they get to the Dougherty County school system, they're in some Head Start program or in some daycare center. And so getting that information to them and so that even when they get to Dougherty County School System, they've already been exposed to the PBIS model. And so, yeah, so that's the long-term, part of the long-term vision is to make it a community-wide effort.
And we do have our pre-K program. They're implementing PBIS as well. We have good prizes.
Okay, Dr. Wiley, can you send your granddaughter? We'll let her do the pulling. Uh-huh. Okay, get your tickets out. I
ain't got one.
Look, he's got a whole roll over there.
One ticket.
He set me up.
What's your name? Chloe.
Take it, Chloe.
What are the odds?
All right. Thank you, man. Appreciate
Actually,
it.
a litigation attorney, not a criminal attorney, not an education attorney. I do different kinds of work. And I'm the board chair right now at Georgia Appleseed. I joined this nonprofit about a decade ago. My interest was that this was a group, we do not do direct service for most of our projects. What we do is look at problems across the state impacting marginalized people, and we work on ways to gather information from the community that's involved, from stakeholders that know the most about the issue, working together to try to figure out systemic change that actually makes a difference in the state. It can be getting laws passed, it can be setting policy, it can be developing these PBIS data that Appleseed did. That's why you could get your data. We did that. We worked very hard with several groups to get the revisions to the juvenile code for the state of Georgia passed, which is probably the only major legislation in this state that has ever been passed unanimously. This state cares so much about its young people, and Georgia Appleseed's role in that is to go across the state and try to see where we can be helpful to pulling people together. We can only do it by getting into communities and seeing people like you and what you know and what you're willing to bring to it. We have had so many partners in each of our projects, including our community communications over race and law enforcement, our juvenile code, our school discipline programs. We'll have 200 individual partners, judges, lawyers, educators, social workers, parents, foster parents, children themselves, who give us interviews and give us perspectives. And then we're able to take that information and actually get partners, whether it's from the legislature or whether it's from industry or whatever, and put it together to actually make a difference in the state. But it's all of you people that let us do that. It is all of you people at grassroots who see the problems, who are working on it every day, who are very much the unsung heroes of all of this. So I just so appreciate all of you coming today, all of what you're doing that you take back every day to the people you're working with. I'm always just overwhelmed by the people that I meet when I'm doing this job, because you guys are the amazing people. And I like to get your stories out there. But keep doing what you're doing, and we're here to support you. And if there's anything we can ever do as a group, or if there's anything that you think we should be doing, please call us. It's georgiaappleseed.org, easy to find, and you can get to us. But thank you so much for coming today and all of your presentations.
And I'll just say real quickly two things. One is, well, three things. One is that if you got something to say, I want to interview you real quick. We got to get back to Atlanta fairly soon, but if you have a reaction from today that you want to share, or a specific talent that we want to make sure to capture, what we want to get from this day, and why we have a videographer here is so that it's not just you, but we can get this out to the community in terms of all of the things we've learned today about what are those things that we can do for, as Ken Dyer said, the whole child, to ensure that they can stay in school and be successful, but the whole schools can be successful. So we're very pleased that all of you are here. We want to hear your voice, so please, if you have a few moments to be interviewed, come find me. I'm in that sort of back conference room. Second, we have all of these wonderful people who brought resources, so go to every single table and learn about the guy who does science at the library, and the Girl Scouts, and the healthcare, and the Law Center, because there's some extraordinary things that you may not even know are right here in your own community. And then third, I want to say thank you to Terrence Wilson for putting this on. He did an amazing job.
All the committee members, so Vinny and Pat and Dr. Porter, and we've had a bunch of folks that were involved with us making this happen. So the folks that live here in the community, it wouldn't have happened. I didn't do this by myself. Unless you didn't like it, then I did it all by myself. If you did like it, which I hope that you did, we have a lot of good folks that work with us. So, and there's room on our committee for more people. So if you were interested in anything you heard today, please get in contact with any of us, and we're going to make sure we get you connected, because we want to do this again. We want to build this. We don't want to just have this conversation one time and let it die. We're going to make sure we keep having this conversation in this community and make sure we build it out even bigger for next time. So with that, we'll say thank you to all of those people. So logistics for the next step. So we've got a resource fair. So everyone that's in here that's got a table, please visit every table. We've also got food on the second floor. Food and drinks is on the second floor. So what you have to do to get your food is, one, if you've got your ticket, please bring your ticket, but also your evaluation. So everyone should have an evaluation in the packet of stuff that they delivered or that they got this morning with your agenda. You got to give in your evaluation and get some food. So that's our way of bribing you.
Except for Chloe, because she's already done work today. She gets her food right now.
And if you don't have your sheet, there's a website on your agenda that says, what does it say? Session evaluation at the very bottom. If you go to that website, hopefully, although the one this morning didn't work, hopefully if you go to that website, you can fill in the evaluation on your phone. So if you would do that and just tell us you did it, we're going to trust you. But really, we would like for you to do it either way, so we can have that information, so we can make this better the next time and do it better. And please tell all of your stories to Tally before you leave. Don't leave without getting interviewed. And we just are so thankful for you all for coming today. So thank you for being here, and let's go eat after you fill out your evaluation.